Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. Some states you think, well, they don't really need a gun rights group. Actually, they all do. A good example of that right now is in Montana. Gary Marbut joins us right now. He's the president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association. And Gary, Montana is not the Montana of 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. You face your own challenges there these days.
Well, hello, Tom, and greetings to your listeners as well. Sure, but the good news is it is Montana after all, and we are on we're advancing. We're making gains here steadily, and MSSA and I, working together, have now gotten a total of 68 pro-gun bills through the legislature and enacted into law.
Holy cow.
So we continue to make progress. That might get me in the Guinness Book, by the way. I don't know, but
you may be right.
In any case, we're making steady progress, and that will include this session. Unfortunately, we're coming off an 8-year episode of a governor who vetoed nearly all of our bills, but he's now gone and replaced with a new governor who's very pro-gun. So we're playing a little bit of catch-up.
So what are we looking at? What are you going to be able to get passed? And I saw that something just went through the House, I think I just saw there.
Yes, our flagship bill is House Bill 102 that basically will eradicate gun-free zones in Montana. Those dangerous places where only criminals are armed and where they ply their mayhem. That will include permitless carry, which in other states they call constitutional carry, and it will also include campus carry, and it will be amount to, that is, an enhancement of our current state concealed weapon permits.
And you think that's got a pretty good chance of getting through?
Oh, I think it's a certainty it will get through. The only question is to what extent can we prevent it from being amended or weakened? It has a lot of legs. The legislature has set that as maybe their highest priority bill, and the governor says he wants it on his desk no later than the end of January. So it's on rocket skids, and as you mentioned, it has already, the House convened 2 weeks ago, and it's already cleared the House. It's gone to the Senate.
That is terrific. And, I know there are people think, well, it's Montana, but you do face your challenges, there as well. You got a lot of people, of course, as with a lot of Western states, have moved there from the far Western states, and you kind of got a little bit of political pollution, I would call it. One of the things, and you tell me how far you want to go with this, but one of the things that I want to talk about for a second is gun rights groups, with big air quotes around that are essentially predatory in nature. And I think that you guys, at Montana Shooting Sports Association have been the recipient, if you will, of some of that.
That's correct. Probably the organization that you're talking about calls itself the National Association for Gun Rights, or NAGR. Yep. And that's an operation by Dudley Brown out of Colorado. And Dudley Brown is a pirate and an opportunist. And he has, in more than one occasion, taken credit for MSSA successes to use in his fundraising pitches. He is all about fundraising, and that's it. And so he's tied into the right to keep and bear arms as a good source of cash if he can spook gun owners into believing his Chicken Little stories. And so he is also involved himself, unfortunately, in our House Bill 102, our flagship bill, and claims that it's terribly flawed, that it's been hijacked, and only he can save it, and he can only do that if you send him as much money as you can possibly afford.
It's the old deal of we're the only ones that are really pure, and the other gun rights groups, they're compromising away your rights, and so he uses that. And I've seen this before. He's not the only one, but he seems to be one of the primary ones. He uses that as a way for people to say, well, I want to be with the group that's 100% no compromise and totally pure, so I'll send them money. And for point of fact, I think all he does with that is make money.
Yeah, I think that's all he does, too. We don't see he's never offered to help us get passed in the legislature the bills that he has subsequently claimed credit for. So he just ties on to our coattails and uses that for fundraising and claims the successes as his own.
it kind of falls under the category. Before you got on last hour, I was talking about people need to choose their sources of information carefully and critically, because there are a lot of people who would like to manipulate them, tell them what they want to hear, get them riled up, get them mad, get them offended. And if they could do that, they can control them. And in this case, control them in terms of getting their money.
Right, fear-mongering. That's very popular, in our circle. MSSA never does that. I've always been repulsed by that fear-mongering. And so I don't mind communicating with people in Montana and saying, look, there is a problem in this area, and we mean to solve it with a bill that will do this, and we need your help, so come on along. And I think that I only do a fundraising pitch to people on my list once a year, maybe. But you see other groups, it seems like the excuse for their communication is to bolster some kind of fundraising pitch, and you never see anything come from them, but it's also a fundraising pitch.
It's another, yeah, right. So tell me what's going on with the possibility of Montana as a sanctuary state.
So we will soon have a bill introduced. I don't really like that term because it's loaded with some baggage that's associated with immigration and maybe other things.
Okay.
But we will soon have introduced a bill that will prohibit state and local officials from enforcing any federal gun laws at all. And let me tell you about the genesis of that, because it's an interesting story.
Sure. Okay.
I was back in New York City to appear live on the Glenn Beck Show to talk about the Montana Firearms Freedom Act, which I had written and we'd gotten through the legislature. And I was in the warm-up room talking to Judge Andrew Napolitano, and I told him about our sheriff's first bill, which we'd gotten passed a couple times but had been vetoed by governors, to make it a state crime for a federal officer to arrest, search, or seize without the advanced written permission of the county sheriff.
Right.
Okay, a way to control, federal enforcement of stuff. And he said, Gary, you don't need to go that far. And I said, well, what can we do? And he said, just don't help them enforce their laws. They don't have the manpower to do it. So I came back to Montana, and I wrote the first version of this bill to prohibit our state and local people from enforcing gun laws. And we've gotten that passed, I think, twice before, but it's been vetoed by governors. But we're going to run it again, and this time we have a governor who will sign it.
I'm just thinking as you're talking there, and it occurs to me, when a lot of times when the feds come in, they immediately go to the sheriff's department and a sheriff and say, we need your help enforcing this warrant or this thing, because they don't really have the manpower in many cases. So Judge Napolitano may be onto something here.
Right, and this is based on Prince v. U.S., and for your listeners who don't remember that story, when the original Brady Act was passed in 94, the first version of that required county sheriffs to perform the criminal records background checks for federally licensed dealers and gun sales. And Sheriff Jay Prince of Ravalli County, Montana, said no. He said, you guys, feds, don't pay my salary, and you don't elect me to office, so I'm not doing it. And he filed a federal lawsuit, went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the decision, as I recall. And anyway, the outcome of that was the U.S. Supreme Court said that Congress may not commandeer the resources of the states and local governments. End of story. That's black letter law. That's good law right now. And so this business of us saying we're not going to help you feds enforce your laws is based on that Supreme Court decision.
Strong decision. Well, Gary, of course, you guys have been doing good work for an awful long time there. I want to direct people to your website. It's MTSSA for Montana State, Montana Shooting Sports Association, MTSSA.org. Carry on and just keep doing the good work. It's a lot of times it doesn't get as much attention as making noise and trying to get money all the time, but you're just getting the job done, man.
Right. That's our mission. Again, like I said, we've now gotten 68 pro-gun and pro-hunting bills through the legislature and enacted into law, and that doesn't include all the ones that have been vetoed or didn't make it through the process. This session, we will have one more measure. We're limiting ourselves this session to a total of 3 measures, even though we have a lot on our wish list. But the third one will be a joint resolution of our legislature asking the Board of Regents to spool up collegiate shooting sports. because we have a lot of young people who are excellent shooters, who take scholarships at universities out of state in order to get those scholarships and join existing shooting teams. Right. And dang, we ought to have that here in Montana for our kids and be able to keep them here and get them the scholarships and a chance to be on a shooting team.